Hey, what's up? So today, in this video, I want to talk about one of my favorite fictional characters of all time, Anakin Skywalker from Star Wars, right? And yeah, just like lessons that I've learned from this character and the things that have stuck out to me, and just like like moral lessons that I've learned from the story of this character. Um, like first things first, you'll notice when you if you watch these movies, right, if you've watched the prequel trilogy of Star Wars, you'll notice that he's a slave. Like Anakin Skywalker is basically like a slave all of his life. From when he was a young child, he was a slave to Gardula the Hutt, right? And yeah, he was basically like a slave boy on Tatooine, with his mother, and it was a rough life for him. And then he left his mother to become a Jedi, and then he was basically kind of like a slave to the Jedi, especially with the Clone Wars starting and just everything. And then the Jedi just not really treating him the right way and just telling him to just withhold his emotions and his feelings, and the things that he truly needed to process. When his mother passed away and he wasn't able to save his mother, and just everything. He was just told to let go of his attachments and all this stuff, and he wasn't able to process these things properly, and then he was manipulated. He was manipulated by Palpatine. He was groomed and manipulated by him over time as time went by. And yeah, like he was just basically a slave his whole life, and he wasn't really quite treated the right way, and he wasn't able to receive the care and the love that he stood in need of, you know. Um, but he was a powerful Jedi, very powerful Jedi, very brave and strong and kind and heroic. Very, very great Jedi, a very great leader, you know, great pilot. Just yeah, one of the best Jedi, very, very powerful, because he had that high midichlorian count. That, I mean, not many people are familiar with that term unless you're like a big Star Wars fan, but he had a high midichlorian count, which is like basically means very strong in the Force, because he was conceived through the Force, basically, right? Um, so yeah, and then like all these different things, from his master Obi-Wan not really treating him the right way, and the Jedi not treating him the right way, and him being groomed and manipulated by Palpatine, his mother passing away, him not being able to save his mother. All these different things added up to him turning to the dark side, and it was that catalyst in episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, that main catalyst that brought him to the dark side. That turning point was the dream, the vision that he had of his wife dying of childbirth, and then him desperately trying to find the power to save his wife Padme, which Palpatine took advantage of. And yeah, Palpatine told him that the dark side was the way to obtain that power. And yeah, it's all just really a tragic story of manipulation and yeah, just everything like that, And, he became Darth Vader, as we all know, especially if you watch these movies. He's defeated by Obi-Wan on Mustafar when he fought Obi-Wan on Mustafar, and he got very, very badly injured and burned, limbs cut off, burned, and that's how he like got in the suit as Darth Vader, you know. And yeah, he still had, even as Darth Vader, he still had that little bit of good, that little bit of light within him, you know. And you can even see that if you've seen the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Even though that series isn't very good, there's certain little moments in that show that are really good. And one of those really, really good moments in that show is that scene in the 6th episode of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series when Obi-Wan had uh, he cut open like half of Darth Vader's mask helmet, and you could see like part of his face, and you could really like see that light within Vader, like the Anakin, his true self within Vader. You could really kind of see that in that particular scene if you've seen the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. And if you haven't, I highly recommend checking that out. But yeah, like once he cuts off that part of his mask and you can kind of see his face, there's a moment where you can just see the light in him, like the good in him. And then, in the original trilogy of Star Wars, which, is what people are most familiar with, it's his son. It's his son, Luke Skywalker, that's the main catalyst that brings Vader back to the light, back to being his true self, because, when Luke found out that Vader was his father, he just, of course he needed some time to process it at first, but he was able to learn more about his father and his past, his true self as Anakin Skywalker, and he was able to really notice that goodness, that light, that little bit of light that's within Vader, and as he confronted him, as Luke reached out to Vader in love, and showing Vader that he recognized the goodness in him, he recognized his true self, especially since there's that father and son connection, and it just shows how powerful and impactful family is, and love and family. It shows how powerful those two things are in life. If it weren't for that familial connection, Luke being his son, and if it weren't for Luke reaching out to Vader with love, he probably wouldn't have been redeemed. He wouldn't have been brought back to the light side. Um, and yeah, there's that moment in Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, when Luke was being attacked by the Emperor. He was attacking him. Excuse me. Yeah, he was attacking him with a force lightning. And he was like, "Father, please help me." And then that's the moment where he had the turning point within himself, and he picked him up and he threw the Emperor down that shaft. And then that was the turning point where Vader really became his true self. That's when he really became Anakin Skywalker. So yeah, that's like the whole point, right? Is family and love, really just like pretty much what Anakin didn't quite get enough of when he was Anakin before he turned to Darth Vader. You know, love, connection, family, understanding, all that kind of stuff, you know. Sympathy and kindness and love. Um, yeah, and that's what brought him back to the light. And yeah, it's a beautiful story, you know. It's a beautiful redemption story, and it's always resonated with me. And it's just beautiful because, you know, now, you know, after that Return of the Jedi, he's still, you know, Anakin, his father, Luke's father, is still with him, you know, guiding him as a Force ghost. You know, if you've seen, I mean, if you've read like the Star Wars Legends books, the old Star Wars Legends books, and even some of the new stuff, you'll notice that, yeah, you know, Anakin, Luke's father, remains with him and guides him, as you know, and he gets to have his father as his true self with him to guide him as a Force ghost. And yeah, it's really beautiful. But yeah, that's all I want to say. That's all I want to share about the story of Anakin Skywalker and the things that have resonated with me about Anakin Skywalker. And yeah, that's all I want to share. Thank you so much for tuning in my video.